Um, I thought it'd be good to start with two things. One is to give people just some context about us and our relationship. And then the other thing I really wanted to say is that I normally, so we're going to do a demo of, yeah, like some coaching and imaginal stuff and like what that can look like. And I think often, especially when I'm writing about this stuff, I'm quite careful about like filtering it or like describing it in a way that's appropriate for lots of audiences and what I say. I think I wanted to just give myself permission to be like full woo and really like go into the truth of what the immediate experience is, which is it just like blows the it just like blows scientific materialism and current rationalist thinking out of the water. And so if you don't like that, you might not like this. That's not really my problem while we're recording.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, we have worked together quite a few times and been friends for a while now, which we can talk about in more detail. But yeah, there was a desire on my side too to help show what it's really like to work with you. I think also that your teaching style is very experiential, and like I think people might understand it best by watching you work with somebody. But like you also have ways of teaching. You've taught like in person to groups, you've taught groups over Zoom and stuff. You have a lot of experience doing that, but I think it's different to watch you working one-on-one with somebody. Um, so yeah, it felt like a nice opportunity to show some of the stuff. Like it's so normal for me and you to do this kind of thing when we hang out. I think we kind of forget how like worldview shattering it would be for so many people, and for the people it's not worldview shattering for, it would just be really cool, you know, the people who are really drawn to this kind of thing and have a similar path and would get a lot out of watching this and knowing what's possible and seeing what it's like to work with you. Felt like a really nice opportunity to showcase like going really 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 in the weeds.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I love that. I think also there's a thing where my one-to-one work is when I'm most in my flow. I find it quite I find it quite challenging to teach to groups because you're sort of dealing with that like how do you it's like almost like a completely different paradigm, and you're like how do you communicate that? How do you hold that in a group setting? How do you it's like quite a difficult thing that yeah, I feel like I'm sort of learning and able to do, but I'm really in my flow with my one-to-one stuff. So it's really nice to, yeah, do some of this.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's part of the shape of you, is my sense.
Mm.
um Yeah, so we have known each other, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And when we first met, we started working together in a coaching context. And back then, we were doing a lot of, I was like really deep in trauma work, and you were doing a lot of like emotional space holding for me and introducing me to imaginal journeying and doing a lot of those two things. Was there, that feels like thinking back, the bulk of what we were doing then. Was
That's
there,
yeah, that
yeah.
feels like a good. I think
Yeah, and there was a lot of like meta, like me learning a lot about how to hold space for people too. Like I was training as a massage therapist and entering the like healing body work world. Um, and so I was also just like getting this like separate education for like what it's like to be a practitioner from you. Um,
yeah, I was gonna say if that felt like the other thread. It was sort of like a kind of individuation thread of you finding your style of leading, guiding, that sort of thing.
cool. Yeah. And then for a while we were um you know, friends and still do this kind of thing, doing this kind of thing for each other all the time. Just, you know, we both like live in a world where energy stuff is really front and center, and are always doing all kinds of like energetic explorations and exploring various aspects of reality and awakening. And led some retreats together and did some other cool projects and stuff. And then in the fall, started doing a coaching container again that like it was kind of cool coming back to it after a few years and being in a very different point in my path. And this time there was still a big imaginal focus, but it was more imaginal causality, which we can talk about a little more, and which I think you've talked about in podcasts and stuff. And some aspects of non-duality, and feeling back into that now felt like a really big focus kind of on individuation again, but a different flavor, just like really coming into like my imaginal avatar, we could call it. Really finding that and embracing it, and finding one of the things I've loved about working together is like really finding some practical moves for like finding this kind of thing day to day, you know, like really, really integrating the practice into day to day life and like making it my actual life, you know, not like a thing over on the side.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I feel like all those things are like really important values of my coaching thing, so it's nice to bring them in.
Awesome.
um I was also thinking like what else is worth including, and one thing that came up was that I think kind of like part of my way of being that I'm, yeah, like working with, that is, yeah, just sort of part of my experience, but is also is very becomes very front and center when I'm coaching, is how meaning dense experience can be. And it's almost like one word can become just like an ocean of information, or one little like gesture, or one little energetic thing that you're picking up on. And yeah, it feels like so full in terms of there's many things that we could like talk about and include. And um also I kind of want to, there's something about yeah, just kind of doing it and letting the mystery sort of unfold. um but yeah, there's something about that that is like an important part of what's present. And um yeah, as we do this, I think there'll be a sense of sort of like pausing and zooming in and being like, oh, what's happening in this specific thing. But I think that as a sort of context of like kind of like the meaning density and the possibility and the potential that exists in lots of the content of experience when you're in the container. It just feels helpful to like pull that out at the start and say, almost kind of like, it's almost like there's too much to fit into words, and we're going to
Yeah.
try and like show some of it through words. But there's something about that bit, like naming that bit first, that's important.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. And that's another, that's a word I use a lot, meaning density, and it's another one that can be like really hard to describe conceptually. So maybe we can find ways during the thing today to like point to that when it's happening.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. um yeah, obviously we're in the context of recording this, and there was something that you said in a discussion we were having once about like coaching and things like that, about that, like the coaching container is sacred. And I really really like that. It sort of resonated and very deeply and stuck with me. And um yeah, I think there's something about, you know, when the when we're recording, it's like a slightly different mode. And um I guess just like presencing that as well. And I think as well, we'll, rather than it being like a kind of traditional coaching set, I mean, I think my coaching style is pretty non-hierarchical anyway, where I tend to sort of like break down a strong hierarchical thing and kind of really, yeah, it's more about like being in conversation with the other person. um but I think especially today we'll probably do some like maybe swapping around, or um yeah, both sharing what we might do if we were in a coaching container and something came up, or that, yeah, we might be kind of flexible with how we're holding the container.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. It feels reflective of how we work with each other anyway. I mean, like in formal coaching containers, we've only done that in the one direction with you coaching me, but like the way we exist in relationship is just always supporting each other and stuff and going back and forth. And I feel like that's part of the magic of it, is knowing each other in that way and having that kind of reciprocity. So that will be nice to show that.
Yeah, and you've done various, you've done like a Reiki session for me and a massage set bodywork session and things like that.
Right, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe as part of the sacredness, I'll just say there's almost an element where, like, if we weren't recording, it would just be us here on the call, and we would be feeling that through the whole interaction. And with us recording, it's almost like everyone who will ever listen to or watch this is here with us now in some way. So it just changes the dynamic a little bit. So if we touch on something that either of us is like, oh, that is something I would normally explore with you, but like maybe not if there is a room full of people here. So just, yeah, just naming that it's fine to you know shelve certain things if it feels too tender for public viewing.
Yeah, lovely. Um, that also reminds me that I have like agreements that I make with people at the start of this is a new thing, but I've realized it's helpful to make agreements with people in terms of like what the coaching container is, because yeah, it just gives people the context. And I won't go through the whole thing now, but I think there's just like a couple of things like um during the sessions we're orienting towards present uh, presence and creating a container to honor the truth of experience. And then with that I also say um so if things come up that are like fear or trying to impress or like feeling unsafe with me or something, just um inviting people to like pay attention and note their inner experience first and just be present with it and don't feel like anything isn't welcome, and then basically feel into what feels safe and meaningful to share, and any like meta feedback or anything that wants to come in is like very welcome. And there's basically kind of bringing in the sense that there's space for everything. I give a little kind of intro to like the different levels that a coaching thing can work on. So there's like a conceptual, like mental words sort of level, but then there's like the energetic level and subconscious stuff and synchronicity stuff. And also say like if anyone wants to ask questions about the different levels or like give feedback about, oh, I'd rather it was actually a bit more conceptual or a bit less conceptual, a bit more emotional. It's like there's flexibility to basically reflect on and give feedback and share whatever's coming up, including stuff about the coaching or the relationship. Just trying to, and it's basically trying to create as much, yeah, honesty, presence, possibility space as possible, so that it's not kind of like restricted and like narrowed in any way, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. It feels really powerful. I think explicitly stating those things should be a given in like any kind of therapeutic or like spiritual container, I feel like. But um so many of those things are not like social norms and defaults that it feels really helpful to explicitly name them.
Yeah. And then one of the main ones is it's like we're stepping into the frame together that everything is an expression of Buddha nature. Um, and kind of like taking an opportunity to for that to deepen and to reach more parts and to become more wholehearted. But it's not about fixing. It's about like opening deeper to what's here and possibility and yeah, trusting the timing of things, like a balance between, oh, it's really possible to make really deep, meaningful, profound shifts, and sometimes very quickly, but also just like trusting the timing and the journey, and that it's not like, yeah, nothing needs to be like fixed in any way. And that's one, yeah, one of the other main ones for me.
Nice. Cool.
Cool.
I think let's do it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
There's something here for me that I think probably feels like a good entry point. That is like the other day I described this to you as fake nothingness. Feels like my system protecting by just like dampening my whole experience. Feels like it's here.
Mm. There's something when you say that, I immediately feel the presence of when you presenced all the people.
Yep.
And there's something about yeah, sort of safety for you to be in your truth, in your depths. What are you experiencing energetically?
It's still similar. There's a little bit of like peeking out and considering what you said, and a little bit of opening up, but it's like it kind of believes the safety piece, but it's still guarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so tell me more about the fake nothingness, what that means, where that lives.
Right now, and the way I've been feeling it lately is it's actually very much like a cloak. I can feel it around my back. The back of the neck is a big, maybe the main place where it starts, and then I can feel it come around both sides of my hips into the front, not all the way to the middle, but feels like just a really habitual response of kind of like taking down the power grid to get hidden, invisible.
If it was gonna say something, if it had a message, what would it say? The nothingness.
I don't want to be here.
Can I ask it why it doesn't want to be here?
Yeah, that answer is really emotional, not verbal. It's like when you asked it, it just shows like days, months, years, decades, lifetimes of um, proof that like things are bad and dangerous and not worth the visibility.
Yeah, I really feel that. Feel the grief in it.
Yeah, that phrase comes up for me from time to time. I don't want to be here. It feels very existential.
If
Okay,
oh sorry.
I can feel like dropping into my heart a little more. It's still like um pretty griefy and tense, but there's a little more space.
Yeah, nice. If you were to give it, if you were to take all of that, the proof, and sort of like if it was in a shape, what what shape would it be? Does that make sense? That question makes sense.
Mhm. Like a massive cement block pushing into my chest.
Mm-hmm. And would it be possible for us to take the block and just like put it in the middle between us and like hold space for it for a bit?
Yeah, something interesting is happening where I can now feel I feel that I just described and that I've been
Mm-hmm.
speaking from almost as its own imaginal avatar. Um, it's like that's different from me, not totally, but I can feel it as its own personality structure and stuff. Um, it's hard to describe, but it's like I just got a little bit of space from it and could see it from a outside perspective. I've never had that before. Um, yeah, let's try that with the block.
Do you want to? It sounds like that thread is maybe important though. That can you describe that again? Is it like the person who's having the block pushed against them is like one version of you, and then there's another version that's like looking at that, or was it slightly different?
Yeah, yeah, something like that. It feels like I have a true self is a phrase that you've used before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's underneath that and that like comes out all the time and that I know well. But it's kind of like I swap between them
Mm-hmm.
and I just got an outside perspective of the hidden one where I just felt like I was looking at it from the side in an interesting way.
Yeah, well, maybe we do that then. We put the version that has the block either to the side or to the middle.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I wonder if there's anything that wants to happen. Like, does I have the intuition that maybe she just wants to go? Like, maybe it's time. But also some other things we could do is like see if there's anything she needs or listen to something she has to say, you know.
The first thing that happened was I just started feeling more space to feel things. There's something about having permission to actually just like let there be like a ton of pain here and that be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you like verbally acknowledge that, I think that would help even more too.
Yeah, there's all the space to feel um anything you want to feel. There's more space. You're allowed to be energetically bigger than me.
Yeah, my experience over these minutes is like just so much despair and similar, kind of like pouring forward out of my chest in a way that doesn't even feel bad. It just feels very like first arrow. Um, yeah, I feel like there's a teaching moment here, which is funny to be like in this like intensity of despair and be like teaching moment. But something very Jane and Rosa about that too. Um, I can feel as it opens up that it's like, oh, there's so few people that this intensity of pain would like feel would there's so few people that would have space for this and that I would trust with it, even not like I'm consciously deciding, but my body just knows. Um, and so one thing that feels important about your teaching container is just how much you have integrated so that there's just naturally, actually, legitimately, you're not just saying this, but there's legitimately like so much energetic and emotional space for this kind of thing to exist and not be judged and not have to be changed, just be here. Um, and then also we did a little bit of coaxing and encouraging and reassuring, which was also really helpful in addition to that space just actually naturally existing.
Yeah, right. There's something about the space is there and that you can sense that. But sometimes what people, it's really good to say the thing that's in the imaginal because that helps the other person feel it and see that it's a possibility. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think maybe to describe my experience while that's happening, it's I think this is one of the reasons I love one-to-one coaching so much because it's like the energy is just speaking for itself in a way. And that's kind of like most close to my natural way of being. And when we were sort of exploring that, it's like I'm feeling I can sort of I think one of the things I'm often attuned to a bit is how much space is available and how much space the person is taking in that
Mm.
like energetically. And it's yeah, how to describe it. It's sort of like a um it just feels like it like almost infinite the size that it goes
Mm.
energetically.
And do you find you shift your ratio with people? You will be bigger sometimes in the session, they'll be bigger sometimes. You're both kind of like fluidly changing shapes, or is it more static than that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like fluidity and change. The person can be bigger thing is something that I bring. It feels related to the hierarchy thing, where I think when you're often in a container, it's like the person who's the coach is like setting a bit the oh, we're showing up in this way. It's like they're setting the tone energetically,
Mm-hmm.
and uh there's something really important about just sort of being like, I don't really know what's here. I'm up for like just being the space that the other person feels and is big. And I'm like, uh, and there's something in that that doesn't normally happen in that sort of like container. So I think it was just yeah, again, it's like explicitly saying you don't have to like fit within the tone or the sort of box that I'm like subconsciously setting.
Yeah, amazing. Something that else that came up for me just then with that um really big emotional energy was like I could tell that one reason it doesn't come out more is that it's worried that it's going to be like a vibe kill to be to just like have that much pain in an interaction. But then there's also the thing of I also don't actually want like a lot of pity for it either, or to act like, oh, something is really wrong that this is all there. Like there was something of sensing you being able to like hold all of that and support it while also like just having a lot of acceptance and equanimity for it. And the thing you were saying of like the everything being Buddha nature and trusting the timing of everything, I think that's one of the most special things I feel in working with you is like you're never acting like the wrong thing is happening, like even with the really like intense, painful stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, I think maybe we can check in and see if there's anything else there, but it's also feeling to me like there's some segue here. Yeah, I guess I feel on my end like some of that weight feeling is still here, but it's way more diffuse now and just feels kind of okay being here. And I'm curious to see what'll happen with it as we keep going.
Ooh.
There's a there's a desire on my side to like drop more into my lower body. I think that's pointing us somewhere. Um yeah, that's my instinct right now. What's happening for you? Are there any meaning threads that are present for you?
No, that sounds great. The thing that pinged the most is the when you mentioned um the imaginal avatar of you. Just something in me was like, oh, this might be something that's here.
What would you say to people watching you mean when you say it like pinged the most?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm just remembering the time when you said, because you do sort of like death care stuff, and I've done some stuff with people with dementia. And you said, with people with dementia, it's a bit like hanging out with you. It's like, and then I was just thinking about when you were saying like you were like, oh, maybe feeling into the lower body, and I was like, yeah, the thing about it's like how is this is being navigated. It's kind of like an interesting thing there, which is yeah, there's something about with the imaginal causality as a kind of so yeah, I guess let me backtrack a bit. It's like the thing we're working with here is the imaginal realm. So it's like the energetics, the imaginal, the emotionality, rather than like, I don't know, something more logical. And the imaginal realm sort of has its own kind of rule system that it lives by. And yeah, the sort of causality in it is different. And that shows up in the world in a certain way, but it also sort of when you're in the imaginal, it's like the possibility space becomes bigger for things being causal. You can make like sort of quantum leaps between things rather than it being like this, then this, then this. And yeah, I think there's something about it's like you're sort of listening for the eros and the aliveness and the thread and the and it's kind of a bit like well, I think I described it once in one of our sessions. It's like landscape. It's like you're in a landscape and you're kind of looking around, and then you might find like a little portal in that landscape, and then you drop down and you go through like an emotion or a perception or an energy, and then that opens up like a different landscape, or the landscape suddenly becomes like you might be like in a small house and suddenly the walls fall away and you're like you have way more space and you can look around you more, or like there's sort of quite big changes that can happen. And yeah, in terms of the thing that pinged, I think it's just like an intuitive, energetic sense of like it's sort of it's like you're listening for the it's like you're listening for the thing the other person comes alive around or like what they really want, and also what feels like it has a lot of meaning density in it. It feels like um I guess I also know you and I'm like I love that part and I love when we talk about that part. So it's kind of like um yeah, it's like those sorts of things I'm listening for with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds great.
Anything you would add about the like navigational thing and what you're doing when you're doing that?
It feels so similar to how you described it. Maybe there's just some other words I would use. Like the word juice comes up a lot. Like sometimes it's almost like you start to get this other sense door for meaning density. It's like a heat map or like a color uh like having a sense for the color of things or something. And some things that are said you can tell like, oh, that it just like has a really different weight or color or texture to it or something. And so that is, yeah, like letting ourselves be led by that. And there's a nice dance of like coming in with actually like a solid structure and intention and plan, and like giving enough direction so that things aren't just totally like meandering and kind of like limp. But then really being open to the mystery of like, I don't actually know what the aliveness or the meaning density is in that thing, and I don't know where it's going to take us, but there's something there to follow, and trusting that, and some like humility around um how much we know what we're actually here to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I'm also with, I sort of want to get into it, but there's one more thing that came up, which is that someone I'm working with describes sort of like really wanting to get in touch with the bit that knows what to do in like a given situation. And I think there's something really distinct about different modes where you can want to be in touch with a part that is right. And then that's sort of like not kind of like not the correct frame and not what we're working in. It's almost like there is no right and wrong, but there is a part that like knows. It sort of has a deep kind of knowing about what is present, what is important, what is meaningful. It feels like a really deep kind of heart knowing. And that also feels very close to, yeah, it's like Buddha nature or self as opposed to parts or true self or, yeah, all of these things where there's a kind of a trust. It feels related to trust, which we've talked about a lot as well. It's like the, yeah, it's kind of like following an intuition and just being able to listen and see and kind of get the sense of the direction and like what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's like a really big juicy topic, and it feels yeah, I'm glad you brought that in. There's something else coming up for me which feels a little off to the side, but maybe just as a way of explaining how this comes up in my life now that I feel like I have access to way more meaning density, is it's like you can be in communication with life in all kinds of ways through this realm. It's like just opening up to more and more information and like avenues of communication, and like maybe like that knowing also, it's like that is available in all kinds of ways that I had no idea about until I sort of developed this sensitivity. Like a funny way it's been showing up in my life lately is like through color. It's like I get that feeling of the intuitive like juicy pull towards specific colors, and then there's like a couple that are just really prominent themes in my life at a given time, and that if I like follow that when it happens, it like takes me to really interesting places and shows me a lot about my life. And it's, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, yeah, nice.
Okay, so some of the things we had planted were like dropping into the lower body and my imaginal avatar stuff. So things are feeling a little dark in my experience again, less with a flavor of hiding now, more in a sense of like something just uh brewing a little and just getting ready to really explode open.
And is there anything you need, like any invite you need, or for it to, yeah, feel like it can open?
I can feel there's some kind of waiting for permission. I'm gonna see if I can actually just do that more for myself. Um, uh, there is some sense of trying to let more just like awareness blossom through my lower body instead of looking at it. Um,
Do you know what happens when you let it open, or is it a bit mysterious until it happens?
I don't have an answer come up that I can really feel right now. Like I know from some memories what it's been like in the past, but right now it feels pretty mysterious.
I have the intuition related to the thing that happened with this, the separating from the other aspect. Yeah, that maybe something new wants to come, or just, I guess, yeah, allowing it to be really different and really new, if that is what's there.
Cool. Getting that kind of imagery of like a race car that's at the pit stop and getting serviced.
Mm.
Um, yeah, when you say that about the really new thing, it's like I can feel my awareness trying to be open to that without accidentally closing it in through expectation.
Yeah, if you were to just describe what's in your lower body right now, how would it feel?
It feels like a dark tunnel. It feels like there's something very alive and pulsing there that's like at the pit stop and getting ready to open up. I get a lot of really wild animal imagery now as I say that. Um, Now I feel it connected with my heart. So now it's like this really still very nature based, lush, beautiful scenery. Um, and then there's a definitely a confusing or mysterious element. Um, and I still feel that quality of waiting for the right moment, waiting for something to ripen.
Yeah, lush.
Yeah, now there's just a sense of a little bit of a push from you, not even a push, but there's something that if you can see it, it would help me see it. Not even help me see it, but help it recognize itself.
Yeah, when you shifted to the nature imagery, that felt more in line with the new thing. That's what I was seeing. I was feeling something much more natural. Um, um, can you describe the confusion you feel a bit more?
Yeah, right before you said that, I just started to notice that the left side of like my pelvic floor and like um yeah, certain parts of the left side of my pelvis just feel darker. Um I think there's a sense there of that's some of the softest, most vulnerable part, and so that might be some of the darkness and mystery. Yeah, okay, there's something there about it's similar to the first thing we did with all of that despair, wanting just like a ton of non-judgmental, non-pitying space. Um, I think there's such an intensity of softness here that I think it wants a ton of just like really gentle space that like doesn't want anything, doesn't need anything, like yeah, just like a total lack of imposition.
Yeah, I
I don't
really
know if
feel
that
that
was clear what I said, but like doesn't want or need anything from this part of me.
totally. No, I really yeah, as soon as you sort of started guiding towards the darker parts, um, I was like energetically kind of yeah, tuning to it, and then yeah, just felt like super emotional.
What are
And
some of the tones that you feel?
yeah, it's like the softness and the tenderness, and um, it felt like something. Yeah, it's like something that's really sacred that hasn't been safe.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel it feels seen by that, and there's something just coming up that I feel all the time, which is like that part not understanding how it fits into society because it's so the norms of the way people are in their bodies and the way uh social structures are now is so there's such an like underlying violence and numbness that it really struggles to find its place within.
Yeah.
Can also feel a tendency to move into despair around that, like that it's really hard to find places for it. So now my instinct is to just like make a space for it here with us, which we've already been doing, but like a space here where we can just really lead with our softness and tenderness and earnestness and like joy and beauty for the sake of joy and beauty and like not just like the total absence of manipulation. Ooh.
Yeah, beautiful. I also sense there's like some of your discernment and sharpness in there as well. Doesn't have to just be soft.
Mm. I have a lot of ocean imagery with this part. It feels really oceanic, and I see a lot of like seashells and sand, and um yeah, the way I feel at the beach is actually like a lot of the most non-dual experiences I have are like when I'm in the ocean.
Mm.
Um Everything just feels so boundaryless.
What's happening in your system right now? What does it feel like energetically?
In the that like left side of my pelvic floor, something really big opened up, and it has this like low pulse to it, and it kind of moved all the way up my left side. It came into my throat, and there's something. I noticed something a little blocked in my throat right when you mentioned the sharpness and discernment. Um, Talking about the beach stuff felt really resonant, and like um, yeah, I could just feel the like beauty and non-dual aspect of this energy really strongly. Um, and it feels like it's still, let's see, what else do I want to say about it? It's still looking to open up more, and there's still some dampening.
Yeah, nice. As you were describing the ocean thing and also everything you were just saying then, and it's almost like it's like you took a corner of reality and peeled it back and sort of folded it in half, and my whole energy was like, ooh, we're going somewhere new. And kind of like there was sort of like a opening and to see where you were going, where we were going, and then um it's like mm, it's like we're halfway through that uh move. Something something once, yeah.
Yeah, that feels really right. As you were speaking, my ovaries just started to sort of take on that low throb and come into the picture more. And I think, yeah, maybe just as a meta commentary, my stuff tends to be super body based. I think I'm kind of taking for granted because we have a lot of shorthand around this. The body piece never feels like the entire thing. It's never like we're just trying to resolve some muscular tension or something. It's like one dimension of a really multidimensional thing. It's like physical, imaginal, emotional, energetic, um, other qualities too. But that is a really helpful anchor for me. It tends to be like a good starting point, I think, is pointing to the anatomy or the rough, yeah, the general area of my body to start to feel into together, and then trying to include as many aspects of it as possible, or if there's one aspect of it in particular that really needs to be highlighted or focused on, sensing into that and moving towards that.
Yeah, nice. And I think when I'm guiding some people who are less embodied, I will guide them back towards the body and ask them lots of questions about that. And then, yeah, if there's like an aspect of experience that is not being included, I might sort of draw that bit out and guide them towards more.
Yeah, I have two questions when you say that. For people who are not super like body as their first as their anchor, like me, like what is their anchor or what's their thing that they're starting with in your sessions? And then the other question was, how are you noticing which aspect is being left out?
Yeah, it's different things. Some people it's very relational, so they talk a lot about relationships and people and um, how they feel in society and things like that. Some people it's more mental, so kind of like conceptual or imaginal, kind of like imageries and like possibilities and things like that. Yeah, some people it's very like emotional. Um, what else? Those are a few that come up. There's probably lots more, but um, and then yeah, there's like a balance between. I guess I have it's there's something which is and I have this all the time. When someone speaks, I just immediately get a sense of the shape that their energy is and the things that are in shadow and the things that are available. So it's like, oh, this person's heart isn't particularly online, or this person's body isn't there, like in their. I mean, most people, it's like, oh, they're in their head. Most people in our world. Um, and then there's something about like listening to what shape it wants to be, because there's something about that people's shapes are also, not everyone needs to be super in their body all the time. I think it's nice when people can be in their body, but I think the thing you were saying about that for you, uh, everything has this kind of body element. There's something about that sort of like true self thing where you're kind of encouraging people into their natural flow, and then also like listening to what are some more what's some more possibility that can come alive and come forward.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought that in. It feels like a really feminine quality of teaching and guiding, and I think it's like really underdeveloped in a lot of teaching spaces. Is um it feels really important to me. It's only gotten clearer and clearer over the years. Is like people are such different shapes and need such different things, and like that's good actually. Like it's so beautiful how diverse people's shapes and paths are, and like what's actually a good outcome for them and what their path is about. Um, yeah, it feels really important.
And I think one of the skills I've been refining more recently is discerning between the shape of their personality and the shape, sort of like self energy and parts energy, or kind of Buddha nature habitual stuff, because I think there's a way that if I would say that there's a bit maybe getting a bit more yang in my way of being, where I push back a bit more, because I think in the past, I guess a failure mode of that more like feminine thing is that then you just end up going along with their personality and their parts and you sort of like suck it in by their energy shape. Like I have that mode a bit, and there's something about kind of like challenging the personality in a way that's quite disruptive and quite intense, and being like, you need to put that thing down, or like yeah, being a bit more sort of like pushy and confrontational and giving them a boundary to meet, and kind of having some of that in the mix as well.
Yes, definitely. That's something that has been really helpful for me about working with a variety of teachers, and which also might just be part of my shape, that's really good for me. And some teachers who are really young and like that's their thing and they're not straying from it, and like do their thing if you want, or you know, or you don't need to if it doesn't work for you. But like that does cut through my ideas of what my path is sometimes when I'm working with a teacher whose thing is super different and I'm like, oh shit, that actually has a lot for me. It makes me want to ask you, like, so there's so many aspects of awakening and of reality that you've gone really really deep with yourself and with other people. If you're working with somebody who is like um let's say you're like exploring hard stuff and imaginal stuff, but then you notice that like something that you're exploring with them, it's like there's a thing that they're missing around non-duality there, for example. Like, would you point them towards that or not if that's not something they explicitly like wanted to work on and go towards?
Yeah, I'll often say to people in a session, like something will come up and it'll be apparent to me that there's a shadow that they're not including, and it's like negatively impacting our capacity to work together or their progress or something. And if I feel like it's going to be challenging for them, I'll say that I'm picking up on something. I think it's a bit spicy. Are you happy for me to bring it in? And then I'll say, oh, you're really avoiding feeling your emotions and projecting a bunch of stuff on this, and you just need, I think you need to feel those emotions. And yeah, I think one of the reasons to also bring in the thing about the like saying, are you happy for me to bring it up? It's also, I think it can be a bit of a mode shift where it's like I'm going into my yang and I'm like inviting you into your yang. And if you're like, no, that's not right, I want to push back. Like something about kind of like, kind of, yeah, being a bit more like sharp and together. But yeah, I will say, I will bring it in and say something now. That's taken me quite a long time to learn that skill, but
Nice.
and
I
then
guess when you talk about, oh, go ahead.
that's often impactful as well. I find it's
Cool.
sort of like saying the thing that is kind of like often I think the thing I feel is like the thing that's like at the base, that's sort of like a huge like cork in the bottle that I'm like, that needs to come out. And then it does open up a lot for people when I do that.
Totally. I feel like this is something that we have in common that we both bring into our work a lot is just having a really natural attunement to the shadows in a given space, relational space, group, like one-on-one connection and stuff, which can be brutal.
Yeah.
If you're like if you're in a space where it's like not appropriate to like bring that up or whatever, it's almost like you and I have done some like comedy stuff exploring this to almost just like release some of that. I kind of I can't think of the word, but it's almost like it builds up for us. But the superpower there is like when you're in a space where people want to engage with that and are open to it, it can really do exactly that. Like really just drastically change and open up a situation when it's brought in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um, so when you're talking about that shadow aspect though, like that my association with that word is I mainly think about emotions and other kind of energies. Whereas I'm wondering if somebody is missing, it becomes apparent to you that they're missing something that's more like, oh, they actually just need to be like less conceptual with this, more I don't know. I'm thinking of like other aspects of your 16 part map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or like, oh, they actually like if they did more deconstruction practice, this thing would go away. You know what I mean? Like, are there
Yeah.
is that part of the shadow aspect to you too? Is that something you might bring up?
Yeah, I think that there's two modes. One is like this person, which I think I'm always doing, may and not explicitly, is just expanding the space they have to move in and the modes. Um, Someone I worked with recently kind of said, oh, one of the things I really value is it's like you're always bringing in kind of like counterintuitive moves and like new, yeah, like new moves, and it's sort of like just saying, kind of saying to people like that is almost like each of those 16 boxes is something that I'm like, oh, they might bring something in and then I might relate to it through metaphor and myth and kind of almost just like take them there and say, and how does it feel in this? And it's sort of just like a kind of gentle expanding expanding possibilities much more, taking people to new places. And then there's when someone, yeah, has more of a trap. So if someone's getting into sort of like too much reification, for example, then I might be like, I think it's, yeah, I might kind of like point that out and say, I think this is like overly reified, some more emptiness would be beneficial. Uh, and sort of like feel into like what's the shadow that is, yeah, trying to kind of be reified, or yeah, in the case of like, I don't know, a different one, like authentic connection, if there's something where I'm like, I can't really feel the authenticity, I'm like, something feels a bit like performative or a bit defensive or a bit, and then like working with the thing that's in the way rather than, yeah, it's almost like you can take people to the new thing, like you know, the subtle body or present awareness or whatever it is, and just kind of take them there, or you can notice that there's something between you and them and like work with the what that is. um
Yeah, totally. It's reminding me of how we've talked about how there's a way to do that that brings in, because often there's shame around these
mhm.
shadows and stuff. There's a way to do that that really cuts through to the truth and does not do any shaming whatsoever, which is like really the super, the ninja move there. And then, but yeah, because as soon as you start to like engage with the shame aspect, even subtly, it starts to get really like hierarchical and kind of combative, and like it just doesn't work either. It doesn't like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that's why it's taken me so long to develop that skill, because I really want to avoid going into like a any kind of just, yeah, like criticism or like something that has a not nice energy behind it. And so it's like being able to just be direct, say the truth of what I feel, have it be very open that they can come back with something if it's different for them. Yeah, and not like sugarcoat the truth, but also make sure that it's clean, very clean.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Cool. I'm digging this format of like going back and forth between the conversation and the demo. It feels like a good time to drop back in.
Oh, maybe one more thing I will say as well. It because it came up between us. Uh, I was obviously very moved by what came up, and I think that um that does happen in sessions. I get quite deeply moved, and I let it. My thing is just to let it show. I just think it's like part of what's in the container. I'm often like moved to tears and things. Um, yeah, it felt like particularly. It just felt like there was so much in that, like from knowing you and us, and it felt like we were really close into the thing because of our connection. So there was like a lot there. I just thought it's nice to like share about that.
Yeah, it really was like both sweet and helpful too to see that happening for you and then hear your perspective. It's um helped my system engage with it more fully to have it reflected back emotionally and verbally. So something that's really coming alive and expanding in the front of my gut and pelvis, like really centered around my ovaries. Um, don't have a lot of detail yet or resolution, but it's whoa, there's like so much energy in there, is the main thing I feel right now.
When you describe it, I feel a lot of joy.
It feels like there's one layer between my conscious experience and that. I'm gonna try saying some things and see if they resonate. One is being allowed to just really exist in joy. Maybe there's, yeah, let me try saying that directly. I don't know if I feel allowed to just feel pure joy. The other thing is my, I don't know if my body can hold that comfortably. I don't know. Didn't resonate a ton as I said it.
I'm wondering if I'm also very open to staying with you, but I'm wondering if it would be helpful to for you to, if I hold a feeling of joy, for you to like resonate with that or come towards that as much as you would like.
Yeah, that sounds great. I also wanted to say from what we were just talking about with the thing you do of that like cutting through move and also shifting into different areas of the map, feel very free to do that here.
Cool. Would it be helpful for me to describe what's in my experience, or do you want to share what's coming up for you as you connect with me?
I want to share, I think, one thing that feels relevant and then hear yours. I had just been starting to get a sense before you brought up the idea of doing this of like maybe there's just a little death that's trying to happen in my system. Some of this stuff move out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I started to feel that avatar from earlier of that like weighted down version of me. And I was like, oh yeah, I think that thing is just trying to die a little and get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can feel your transmission now, I think, but I also feel that block still. Yeah, curious to hear what it's like for you.
Yeah, it's like if I sit in my body, it's like a very, very like a very enormous, expansive emptiness around me, and then in the center of me, it's like a kind of yeah, like a sort of kind of jhanic, but also a bit different sort of energy all through my belly that feels more visceral, more kind of like reddy colors. Everything else is like white, clear, or sort of slightly golden light, and then center, it's like yeah, a bit more sort of visceral, and it's like there's something about that. It's more chill. That it really came to life when you said the thing about there being lots of energy in your system. And yeah, it feels like there's some puzzle that I get the sense of like some boundary between my and yours energy, and it's like the puzzle of what's the um like how things want to flow most naturally. And yeah, it's really hard to put into words. uh oh yeah, it's like yeah, because there's a way that you could come, right, yeah, there's a way that, for example, you could come in to this energy, or I could sort of beam it at you, and maybe you'd get like a hit of it or something. But this is more like wanting to wanting to share with you that when you're in your fullness, like my system sort of lights up and there's joy that comes, and it's like it's not only safe. It's like the thing where your system is like looking for safety. It's not only just safe, it's also like really uh it's like it's like my system's like celebrating it, and I want to like share that with you.
I'm gonna try naming a few things. I wonder if holding space for just a little bit of an energetic death. I just got an image a second ago of like just like us doing a little mini energetic grief ritual kind of thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
also wonder if there's just some big emotional energy that needs to move through that's like that back of the neck dampener thing. Oftentimes I think there's just some really primal fear energy that if that just moved through a little bit, it would really open things up. Yeah, I feel that as I say it. I feel like that could help with the natural flow of our experiences both being really open and also connected.
I get the feeling that there's something that doesn't want to be seen, and I'm like conscious of the context of recording and not wanting to put pressure on, but also just wanting to say that I'm willing to look. I don't need to like turn away.
Um, yeah, I think it feels like because I don't really know what it is, maybe it's just nice to have permission to explore it and then cut that part out of the recording later if I want to.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, yeah, opened up in the back of my neck into this really like teeth gritting, awful pain and fear and like pressure and intensity of like it's like a mix of terror and just like absolutely fucking misery at being here and having to endure all of this. I feel it now. It's like connected the back of my neck and my solar plexus. It's like a, you know, it just feels like a really deep soul trauma. Okay, I'm gonna drop out a little bit of the like commentary mode and try to drop deeper in myself and just sit with it.
Yeah, let me know if you need anything from me.
I think any reflections you have about what you sense would feel comforting.
It's like a it's it's like on an emotional level, I'm really moved, really tender, but the imagery is a bit silly. So, sorry for laughing. It's like a Cheshire, it's like a black Cheshire cat head with a tadpole's body that's like writhing around. Um, there's maybe something in that dissonance that I'm feeling of the imagery being, oh, 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 I'm just like suddenly feeling a lot. Yeah, it's like dissonance is part of the um oh, it's like all of experience is becoming liquid now. It's like dissonance is part of the wound, is my sense. Um, whereas like what's happening on the surface or the imagery is one thing, and then the feeling is another.
Oh wow, yeah, that really hits. Was there something else you were gonna say?
I think that's all for now. It feels like a lot's happening energetically now. What's coming up for you now?
A lot of just stuff moving around energetically that's kind of contentless for me. There's something I keep like wanting to say stuff as commentary and then I feel like I don't want to leave, you know, being really present with my own experience. But I feel like there was just something so important there about, for one thing, the fact that like something happened that made us both laugh actually felt really powerful. Is like, yes, this is heavy and intense and really emotional and that is serious and matters and stuff, but that was really helpful to also like just have that vibe shift and like there is a way sometimes to bring lightness even to the heaviness that I think is really powerful. But also the way that you notice that there is a dissonance for you with the emotionality in the image and that that was actually meaningful and showing us something. Like I think that's this is happening in life all the time, but I think it's especially crisp and noticeable sometimes in a session. It's like there are so many layers that things are revealing themselves and showing you what is happening and what wants to be like coming through and be noticed by you. And so noticing that situation and wondering about it and realizing there was something meaningful being communicated, I think is a really nice demo.
Yeah. Yeah, super nice. Yeah, there's a couple of things there. I think one is that like truth responses in the body are often telling a lot. So yeah, like tears or laughter or something. It's like it's yeah, it's often showing that there's something rich. And then yeah, the thing about like the dissonant, the it's like in a way that's kind of the paradigm of this sort of like non-duality with meaning, like the soul is included thing, which is it's kind of like everything has meaning in it and you're um paying attention to it, but you're not, yeah, you're not like fused with the meaning. I think a lot of shamanic stuff, you're like you would take the meaning and like follow it. It's sort of yeah, the imaginal element, it has, it's like also integrated with a more like Buddhist perspective where you're kind of like able to like note what is present and not be like entangled with it, and there's more space to, and I feel like your illustrations of the doing energy work with clients is one of the best depictions I've seen of this, where it's like yeah, noticing the thing that is present and being able to name it and be with it rather than like be fused in the story of the emotion or the meaning. um yeah, that feels in a way like one of the things that imaginal practice is, and specifically like this type of imaginal practice, which I think almost no one else is really doing. Like obviously you've got kind of yeah, different people who are doing different types of imaginal practice, like Rob Bobet or whatever. There's, but that's sort of the sense that like an image is kind of like other to you and visits you as opposed to like embedded in your system. And yeah, the sense that the imaginal is already there and is a layer that is communicating meaning to you, um, of something that is present, is really um, yeah, it's like hard to describe, but that example was an example of like how that manifests, I guess.
Which example from what
The
just happened?
thing, yeah, the thing with the dissonance,
Yeah, yeah,
sort
cool.
of like being in the image and the emotion and it being the thing that was present and the
Yeah, I love how you describe the like truth signals and stuff. And I think I would add to that list just like noticing what you notice. If something keeps jumping out at you and you're like, huh, that's interesting. I think I used to when I started working with people just be like, oh, that's inconvenient. That's here right now. It's distracting me from the session, and uh like all of that is yeah. I think it's really fun to really refine that sense of like noticing and observation and then you can really it just the meaning knob can just keep going up and up.
mm-hmm.
Okay, I think there's probably like one more thing for us to do in the demo side if that
Yeah,
feels right for you.
yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was feeling the same.
Things in my body have landed into like a very stable, calm place. Not super colorful and bright. Still in some kind of in between space, but noticeably like super calm. A question that comes up is, where is the Eros right now for both of us? Like, what would we most love to follow right now?
Yeah, for me, I think there's a sense of care around something unresolved that wants to be included. And I don't, it feels mysterious. I don't know what it is.
The thing that was coming up for me was really not giving up on pursuing very intently the fullness of my joy, because I was starting to settle into, there's like a confusion I have around relating to these neck and solar plexus blocks of like, well, they're here for reasons. They've taught me a lot over the year. You know what I mean? Of like, maybe this is right as it is or something. And that the feeling just then was like, no, I actually just like really want to fucking go after access to really full joy. Does that feel like it's the thing you were feeling?
Yeah. Then I'm like, yeah, get rid of them.
Yeah, it brings up a theme that I think about a lot, which is like, well, do we want to like sort of really cultivate and build up the joy, or like go after the obstacles,
Mm-hmm.
or secret third thing? Um,
Yeah, I think there's a secret third thing, but I don't know what it is.
I think it probably has to do with your systems transmission. Um, it does feel like there's also just a play, an opportunity for me to really claim it and feel my own strength and agency around like being able to step into that on my own without needing somebody's permission, or even just like somebody else's presence and care and heartfulness to help get me there. Yeah, it feels like my system noticing that it just has the power to decide that that's always available to me. Feels very like strong and, ooh, like there's a lioness image.
Yeah, I think there's something about feels related to doing this and recording it and us just being like, well, we're not gonna translate, we're just gonna do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like so, if I was to put it into words, it's like the thing that you already are without any extras is already just like really cool.
Feels really good in my body. It feels like a mix of a lot of things we've touched today. It's like I feel this really intense strength. I also feel the discernment and sharpness quality that you mentioned, and then I also feel that softness in there and just like a lot of pleasure. And it feels, I feel really rooted in my ovaries, which is not an experience I have that often, but it feels really right. Um, there's a really, yeah, that like really big energy I was talking about before is still there. It feels like just super electric and alert and alive.
I get like if I listen really, really carefully, I can hear like a subtle question of will I have to leave again? Like that energy, asking that.
Mm-hmm. The answer that comes up is that I don't know. It feels like what I can promise myself is um having a really strong like internal parenting energy around like the invitation is always to stay and realize my own strength and safety, and like sometimes things falter and things tend to be very nonlinear for me, and I don't want to leave the the session and the demo acting like, oh, this is fixed now, like make some kind of like big statement or something. Like hold space for the possibility for things to take some time integrating. But there's this line on a TV show I was watching the other day when like a kid was, I don't know, like a teenage kid was kind of like rebelling and running away from home, and his dad just said like the door is always open. And I really liked that line. It's like feels like what I can tell myself is like this is always open for me to come back to if I ever feel like I have to leave.
Mm.
Um, Also possible I'm missing something there. It doesn't feel like totally, it was like the pelvis and ovaries part felt really strong and maybe wasn't totally feeling connected to my heart. Just wondering if you noticed anything else there in what I
Yeah, that's
said, or
the
if you or if you would offer even like a different message.
yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, what I think what I was feeling at first, I was feeling the sense that the energy can actually sort of just free flow and kind of come and go, and then that's maybe more optimal or like that it um but then I felt that the energy in the ovaries was more like tenacious, and actually it was kind of giving the signal of like, no, I actually really want to stay. It's really important that I stay. And there was like maybe a different modes, and maybe that's like yeah, if I feel into it now, I feel like there's a lot of stuff, but it's sort of like yeah, it's like the ovaries energy. Yeah, it feels really important it's like something just about kind of like, yeah, basic sort of like safety and rootedness and belonging and power and aliveness. And then the heart energies, it's more like things come, things go, kind of vibe. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I get the impression as well that the ovaries energy will, it was like the message I got from it is like, I really need to stay and like it might become something else later, something more flowy. But for now, it's like, no, I really like need to like reclaim or something, or like be present.
Yeah. That's helpful to hear. Cool. Anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap up?
I wonder if there's something, have we talked about this already? Um, the sense that it's like the energy is really kind of speaking for itself, and that's part of the paradigm.
Have we talked about it on the recording?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I wonder if there's something there because I feel like that in and of itself is probably hard for a lot of people to relate to. And I feel like in a
Yeah,
way
can you
that's
say
part of the
more
cool.
about that and if there are specific ways you felt it today?
Yeah, I think it's like um I guess so many people are so used to being in their heads and then either like overlaying or sense making just through their mind all the time. And it's like this is kind of radically just um it's sort of like the meaning and the intelligence and the um aliveness is like already in the energy. And so you're just kind of like, I mean, it's the meeting of the awareness and the energy. So it's not just letting the energy do its thing, but a lot of it is just kind of like really listening and very non-selfy, I suppose. And yeah, I don't know. Anything you would add about that?
Yeah, that feels really important. It also, I think, feels really intuitive to me, and so I don't think about talking about it. I think there's just something that I was pointing to a little bit with the first thing that we did and how like chill and kind of equanimous you are about it. Um, it's something about really deeply internalizing over time that like things are happening for reasons and everything is not like a problem to solve. It's just, it's really more of like a discovery process and a journey and like, um, I feel like there's one other piece to it. What is it? I feel like there's this kind of radical marrying of like um getting really on board with like things as the way they are, which is there's so much shadow work and death work involved in that. And then getting really on board with the like sacredness of desire and connection with your own values and what conviction for change you have, like internally and in the world, which is probably which might mirror each other very nicely. It's like the marriage of those things is like
Mm,
radical acceptance and radical bravery and push for change.
yeah, beautiful. I love that. I really love that. Yeah, and I think there's like a uh one of the things that the sort of the radical meeting as well, that one of the sides of it that I would describe is like the really really like taking things at face value and kind of like letting things speak for themselves. And then also like this deep emptiness and just sort of like not uh like nothing is fixed and is just what it says it is. It's like there's all this possibility and kind of like space and void around things. And it sort of shows up in the really deep, like in crisp kind of like intuition and knowing and just like not knowing. And yeah.
Yeah, really nice. I feel like we could do a whole other demo on that alone. That feels
Yeah.
so juicy.
One more thing that popped out when you were speaking as well. Oh, what was it? It popped out and I was like, oh, I should say this because I don't need to say it now. I've forgotten it. Um, ah, maybe it means we just have to save it for another day. Oh, yeah,
I
I
think
know.
yes.
Yeah, there's something that you said. I can't remember exactly what words you used, but it relates to the thing you said as well about like not wanting to be like, oh, and now it's all fixed. I think there's something about what you were saying about, yeah, things having like a meaning and a reason and a purpose. There's a way in which that really invites a frame of like endlessness, and the thing is never done. Where it's like, you can have a session and move through a ton of stuff and like everything changes, and then it's like then it's the next thing where you then a ton of new stuff comes up. And like I thought that was really nice in that energy at the end, the ovary energy. It's like it feels really like rich, and it's like there's something in it that's like clearly it's like on it's like on its sacred journey of something. And it's like cool and interesting to see what happens next. And there's something in that frame of endlessness. um yeah, I remember it came up as well. Like I think it also relates to the meaning thing. I'm just getting a memory of when you were here in Amsterdam and you were working on something in on David, my partner's arm, and then it was just like it's like the thing where it just keeps going and just keeps going, and like you can like take a tiny bit of someone's body and it just the endlessness of it. And he like pointed that out and commented on it, and I just think that that is like part of this paradigm. It's like the meaning density, but also the way that things are just always in their process and always unfolding. It's yeah, really nice to recognize.
Totally. I feel like that's part of the imaginal avatar thing too. And then we were talking about not getting too wedded to that yin quality of that, and also like cutting through things and um taking things in like radically different directions. It's like the imaginal avatar stuff, even if over the course of your life you're like growing more and more into yourself and getting to know yourself better, that's never ending. It's always going to be changing and evolving, and there's always going to be an emergent quality to it. I think there's like a real like refinement and skill around how to hold that, like when to really be like, nope, this is me and this is important and I'm not like fucking compromising on this, versus like, oh, this is actually really fluid and identity is so fluid and I'm kind of everything underneath the identity and can shift into anything at any time. Um, what was the other thing I was going to say about that? I think that I've been surprised just how much work it is to integrate that through the nervous system. And I don't think it's fully integrated for me yet, but I've made a lot of progress with it. And it's just been really interesting that there's something at so many levels in my nervous system that is looking for an end and
Mm-hmm.
looks for different situations and connections and looking ahead to something in the future to be the thing that's that. And
Mm-hmm.
that just like takes so much time and practice to, like, you can hear somebody say there's no end, there's no destination, etc., and understand that mentally, but it is so different for the body and the energy to internalize that. And yeah.
Yeah, I love this. I feel like there's something as well in the energies that we were just that just came up and like where they were, where it's like the emptiness that happens on like a heart level. And it's just sort
Mm.
of like this infinite kind of boundless thing. And then the sort of more essence level, which feels much more kind of like sacral chakra in deeper in the body. And there is something about, yeah, your essence, and also the thing that came up around like protecting the sacredness of your essence, which is often, I feel like, uh yeah, devalued and undermined in our like society. And um yeah, the kind of balance between the emptiness and the essence. And then I think the thing I would say is that I think there are meaningful end points as well in a way. There's just things where it's like your system just stops doing them anymore, and then they fall away and you sort of forget you were ever doing them. And so you're not like, oh wow, I'm like so glad I'm at the end point, but you're just not caught up in the same like work that you used to be. Does that is that worth saying? Is that like interesting?
I think so. I was not sure where you're going with that, but now I feel like there's a really powerful, I feel like we're just pointing at a lot of like non-dual duality. Like it's nice to like swim between the dualities and the non-duality, and there's a nice duality there of like I was saying to you at the beginning of the call before we started recording is some really deep things have been opening up in my body lately, and like that's not like the point necessarily, but it is really emotional for me because it's all these milestones. Like um there's also a thing in my life where in the last few years I've started just like celebrating milestones a lot more. I never used to care about birthdays and I didn't want to like make too big of a deal on like accomplishments and things, but now there's something about like life is so hard and complicated and like there's so, it's like we should really stop and celebrate life and celebrate milestones like as much as we can. It's like, it's so sweet to pause and celebrate the work that it took and also just be really present with the joy and the life that's here and the gift of that. And that feels connected to what you're saying too, is the endlessness is so important. And also we're always moving through ends and beginnings, and those are really real and important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you can get places in practice that are really stable and beautiful and um like make a big difference. Um,
Yeah.
but I think like there's something in the kind of it's like you get to them by surrendering to the endlessness and letting that like take over.
That's some shit.
And maybe there's something, one more thing there about the imaginal avatar thing and the essence thing, which is the place where I've ended up when I first like really heard about awakening. The thing that I imagined is I could never have imagined the details, but the sort of like vibe of it is true. There is like an essence that I was sort of like picking up on. And I was like, oh, it's like possible to be in this completely other mode that would feel like X, Y, and Z. And a bunch of it was um yeah, it's like a bunch of it would have been impossible to imagine. But there's something in that essence that is available and possible. And
Yeah, it reminds me of the thing you said of like people are kind of the same after awakening. They're like the same person they've always been.
right,
Um,
yeah,
it's like they don't really change, they just get like clearer and more aligned and more themselves. And And it's just like the whispers and the pieces. There's like a really nonlinear imaginal quality to that. It's like how kids often show things of like there's often all these like harbingers in childhood of what somebody's real passion in life is and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Cool. That feels really complete to me. How
Yeah,
about
me
you?
too.
Nice. That was so fun. Thanks, Rosa. Thanks for all the presents and support.
Yeah, thanks. That was really fun.